All right, everyone, thank you for coming out tonight on this cool fall evening. I'm your supervisor, Manu Koenig, and delighted to be up here at the summit to talk about various issues related to our county and community tonight. This is a hybrid town hall meeting. You can see we're live on Zoom. We've got Jamie Seahorn, First District Analyst, on Zoom managing the online audience, and we have Christina Glavis and Shane McKeithen, other First District analysts here in the room tonight. I am got a quick agenda for you here, and then we'll have plenty of time to talk about any issues that you want to bring up that I haven't touched on, or go into more depth on any of the things here. First, I want to talk a little bit about some of the election impacts, since that's all fresh in everyone's minds, both locally and the impact of that we see with our new president. We'll talk a little bit about county fire restructuring, looking at a lot of potential changes there with CSA 48 and county fire. We'll talk about road funding, always a fun topic. And ultimately the way our county is funded, and then a little bit of an update on the sheriff's substation. For those of you who weren't aware, this is a meeting focused on the summit area, and so that's why it's pretty much all that's on the agenda. But during Q&A, I'm happy if anyone's joining from outside of the summit to take questions about other topics. So diving right in, we've got 2 new supervisors coming in starting January of next year. This is sort of a bittersweet moment. I'm going to be sad to see Bruce McPherson and Zach Friend go. They both have served 3 terms, 12 years now. But it's also exciting because we're going to have new energy and motivated supervisors who really want to get stuff done. You know, it's been basically 12 years since either Zach or Bruce had been through a tough general election campaign and really pounded the pavement and hit the issues. Monica and it's looking like Kim have both been hearing a lot from their constituents, and I'm sure that 2 things they've heard a lot about are the condition of our roads and our planning department. So it's going to be great to have their energy and desire to get things done coming in fresh. And I will also say that both of these women live on rural roads themselves, which is a nice change. So Monica lives outside of Felton. Kim lives up Trout Gulch in Aptos. So they live it firsthand as well. Really the 1st, 5th, and 2nd district combined are the districts that represent the vast majority of the unincorporated area. Districts 3 and 4 are great as well, but most of their constituents are within the cities of Santa Cruz or Watsonville. And so they just don't hear about these issues as much. So really, the 3 of us are going to be your go-to team when dealing with issues in the rural part of our county. I'll talk about this one next. So Measure Q, local measure called the Water and Wildfire Protection Act. Looks like it has definitely passed with 58.9% of the vote. This is a $87 parcel tax, so just flat $87 per year. Expected to raise $7.5 million every year. You'll see about half of that on your next property tax bill in April, and then next October. So we'll start collecting it next year. I'm actually really excited about this one because it's going to provide funding to help Firewise neighborhoods and really do other work specifically to create shaded fuel breaks and reduce hazardous fuels and do forest management. This section down here, this text right out of the initiative text. The way it will be split up is 40% will be distributed via grants. 20% will just go directly to cities, 20% directly to the county, and then 20% to the regional resource conservation district and local land stewardship and a local land stewardship partner. But you know, a lot of that, again, whether it's through the county bucket or the amount distributed via grants, will be available to do this kind of fuel mitigation work. So be thinking about if you've got a project that could potentially use these funds. I heard from Terry just now, we're up to about 75 Firewise neighborhoods throughout the county. That's fantastic. We were at just 10 back in 2020, so that's a huge increase. And basically, it means that a lot of you are investing your own money to fire harden your homes. This will be a way to match some of those funds with local dollars. And then we anticipate being able to take those combined amounts and then pull down additional state or federal dollars to make the work go even further. One thing I've seen with our transportation sales tax measure is that we've basically been able to match that 4 to 1. So one local dollar has been able to draw down 4 state dollars in order to get work done. So hopefully this $7.5 million actually can be multiplied many times over by demonstrating that our community has a commitment to getting this kind of work done and is a good recipient of larger grant funds. So the initiative requires us to write a strategic plan next so that we are making these investments in a smart way. We have to create a commission that ultimately allocates these grants. And then likely, because we actually have to start collecting the revenues before we can give them out, we'll probably start accepting grant applications at the beginning of January 26 and distribute them fairly quickly after that. One last thing I'll say, Prop 4 at the state level also passed. So that's a state bond to pay for various climate adaptation measures. So this could, again, is going to be a good way probably to match some of those state monies and make us more competitive to pull those down and do work here in Santa Cruz County. I'll have to go back here. Of course, a lot of folks are wondering, well, what's the impact of our new president? So we definitely think there'll be some local impacts. 2 of the big areas are in the way our Federal Highways Administration responds to some of these large storm events and crises, and then the way Medicaid, Medi-Cal here in California is funded. So on the Federal Highways Administration side, really there's FEMA, which we're all most familiar with as far as funding disaster recovery. But there's actually also the Federal Highways Administration that funds recovery on federal highways. And there's more roads designated federal highways than you might think in our county. For example, Redwood Lodge Road is designated as a federal highway. Yes, indeed. Our Public Works Department was, let's just say, creative and ambitious and applied to make sure that some of these connector routes are considered federal highways because they're important connectors, important escape routes. It's actually generally a good thing to be a federal highway versus just any old road. Federal highways tends to pay out a lot faster when it comes to applying for disaster relief, usually within the 2-year time frame, whereas FEMA can be 5 to 10 years. However, it's possible that we've needed to work with federal highways sometimes to extend that 2 years a little bit, right? Because we have seen so much storm damage in recent years. Sometimes we've done everything we can. For example, in the last to recover from 2023, fixing hundreds of sites, but there's still more than 100 left. And so we've been able to work creatively with federal highways with this last administration to push that deadline a little bit further than 2 years sometimes. We expect it to be a little bit stricter under the Trump administration. It was during his first term, and it could ultimately jeopardize our ability to complete all the projects on federal highways in the future. We'll see. The other thing is that California has really been expanding the amount of stuff that we bill to Medi-Cal. Most of you have probably heard that we extended Medi-Cal pretty much even to undocumented immigrants within the state. That was through a waiver, right? Because ultimately this is an extension of a federal program. We receive money from the federal government to provide that service. And so it's not the way every state administers their Medicaid funds. I'll tell you that much. California has been pretty creative as far as trying to make that money go further and go to more people. Those administrative waivers are likely to go away. We've also been using Medi-Cal to bill all kinds of services related to homelessness, even in some cases considering housing a billable medical expense. So that's under another waiver that's likely to go away. So we could see some significant impacts just on our healthcare system in general. Okay, I'm going to move on now and talk a little bit about county fire. We recently completed, with the help of AP Triton, a consultant, a pretty massive study looking at the state of county fire. Pretty much all the areas that are not either red or yellow on this map, so both this lighter pink salmon as well as the blue. You know, the whole area that doesn't fall into a otherwise designated district. And you pay for this on your property taxes through CSA 48, which is a county service area. There's a few challenges and a few reasons why we need to reassess the way we've organized county fire. The first is that the way it works is the county collects the money and then pretty much hires CAL FIRE to provide service in the area. And we've done that through what's called an Amador contract, named after the county that had the original contract as the template. And it basically means that the county pays for non-fire season and the state pays for fire season as far as providing the service. Well, that's been a pretty great deal for the county recently because fire season has gotten longer and longer, which means we pay less and less. And it's actually allowed us to upgrade some of our equipment and build up some reserves. CAL FIRE is not so happy with the deal, and as you can imagine, is interested in renegotiating that. That issue is kind of being forced also by the fact that they are changing the way they schedule their firefighters, and going to a more condensed schedule, and so that is leading to budgetary impacts. So they're looking to renegotiate that contract. Well, the other major issue with the Amador contract and with having is that if there's a statewide fire emergency, CAL FIRE leaves almost entirely, right? Because their job as a state agency is to fight the biggest fires in the state. And under the current contract, we don't have any personnel reserved for Santa Cruz County under any circumstances. So we really want a contract where we do have dedicated personnel who are going to stay on duty, even if there's big state emergencies elsewhere. The other issue is just kind of related to fire agencies in general. All fire agencies are seeing rising costs and really inability to rely on volunteers anymore, right? I mean, the nature of work has changed so much. Many of us work outside of our immediate community. And so these agencies that have used to be able to rely on volunteers now simply can't. A great example of this was the Branciforte Fire District, which recently merged with Scotts Valley, which is why you don't see it here anymore. It's now part of Scotts Valley. And all of their volunteer firefighters lived outside of their district. So that's a problem that all agencies are having. And so there's an increased pressure to find some other way forward and ultimately to merge in many cases. Other counties have gone through this already. San Diego County formed a larger fire district through the merger of 15 smaller districts back in 2008. And Santa Cruz, as the second smallest geographic county in the state, just after just a little bit larger than the city and county of San Francisco, we have still 12 fire agencies in this county. If you count Pajaro Dunes as being separate from the rest of the county service area. So that's a lot, and we could probably have some greater efficiencies in communication with more mergers. We are also seeing some kind of urgent financial needs from Pajaro Valley Fire Protection District, which says they have about 18 months of funds left, and Felton Fire Protection District has also been going through a rocky financial period as well. So the idea ultimately is and kind of the main outcome of the big study was to look at creating a special district for the entire what's currently the county fire area, which basically means it would have its own board of directors. You would elect 5 or 7 directors for the fire protection district. Ultimately, that would provide a better structure. If smaller districts wanted to merge into that, they could have more local representation. There could be districts within the new county fire entity. The goal is to move towards more a new contract with CAL FIRE that ultimately provides 24/7 staffing at least 3 of the stations. What you're seeing here, again, the green area on this map is the Santa Cruz County Fire District today, with the various stations. The little blue ones are all volunteer stations. So, the idea is to pick 3 of these and have them be staffed 24/7. And ultimately, have better staffing, improved accountability, because now you have a board of directors just concerned with providing fire service in the unincorporated area. Also have a structure that can handle mergers with some of these smaller districts. And we did dissolve the Fire Department Advisory Committee, which was kind of the structure that the county had to oversee county fire. We have our former chair of the Fire Department Advisory Committee, Sanjay Khandelwal, here. Sanjay, I don't know if you want to say anything more on this topic. You want to come up here?
So I was on the FDAC about 2.5 years ago, as the first district representative that Manu appointed me. And then I was the chair for 1.5 years. And a few of the things became very clear right away. The costs are going to go up. Okay, the Amador contract doesn't work. Every single meeting, the CAL FIRE chief, and I'll come back, explain a little bit. The CAL FIRE chief would be like, this doesn't work for us, okay? By the way, one quick explanation is county fire and CAL FIRE, people use it like the same, okay? And literally for us, CAL FIRE provides the services, so it is CAL FIRE, but it's under a county fire contract, right? And CAL FIRE, the CAL FIRE chief is San Mateo and Santa Cruz. So he would always tell us, San Mateo does it this way. It's much better. Santa Cruz does it this way. We're like, so we knew that the money is gonna go, okay? Last year, they came to us and gave us, the county, a contract, and basically the costs were doubling. We have about $9 million in reserves that was going to go away in 4 years. So that's when we talked, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And by the way, if the reserves go away, we're all gonna have to pay more taxes, okay? The second thing is county fire is only funded through CSA 48 money. So it's whatever we raise, it's essentially just given to CAL FIRE or to county fire. The county doesn't put any extra dollars in. By the way, that's correct. The county doesn't pay for any of the other 12 districts, right? So why should they pay for just us? But again, the money is gonna go away. Third thing, volunteers, right? We love Loma Prieta Volunteer Fire. I know Alex really well. I know most of those folks. It doesn't work for the volunteers. CAL FIRE has an incentive to get their personnel out and pay them. It's just the way it works. They've got their personnel and they've got the volunteers. Who do you think they're gonna send out on a call? Their personnel get paid. We don't. They want the personnel to be paid. So the volunteers have over the years multiple times said this doesn't work, and we're losing more and more volunteers too. The numbers keeps going down. Loma Prieta, we've got 12. We're on the high end. Carlitos is down to 5. Bonnie Doon is down to like 3. So it's the volunteer system doesn't work. And it's not because people don't want to be volunteers. It's just the system is flawed. And also the training amount. 1.5 years. 1.5 years of training, 6 months every single weekend. Straight 6 months, every weekend you have to go for training. And this is to be a volunteer. right? I mean, for the goodness of your heart, I mean, really? I mean, I looked at it, I'm like, no way in heck am I gonna be 6 months of training every single Saturday, 4 hours every single Saturday. So the system is just needs to change. And last but not least, the Fire Department Advisory Commission really didn't have any teeth. It was supposed to be just advice. All right. FDAC didn't have any teeth. And the way it is set up, because it is a government commission, you cannot have a majority of people get involved behind the scenes, and contract negotiations have to be done behind the scenes. You cannot do contract negotiations in public. So the county has somebody who oversees the Director of General Services, Michael Beaton, really good guy. But Michael looks after the contract on his own. He negotiates on his own. He could not use the FDAC to advise him. Which I'm like, this is ridiculous, right? I mean, I'm supposed to be an advisory commission, but I cannot advise you on the contract, which is the biggest thing. And, timing and everything, the whole thing. So talked to Supervisor Koenig. I went and talked to, all of the advisory commission members and stuff, and it took a while, but it was unanimous. Every single commissioner, 7 of us, voted unanimously to dissolve it. We also voted that we should work with LAFCO, which had come up with the idea of do a reorganization, make it an independent fire district. Somebody needs to start overseeing it. By the way, part of that issue of it going under the Director of General Services, by the way, Director of General Services reports to an assistant CAO, who reports to the CAO, who reports to the board. And County Fire Chief reports to the Director of General Services. 4 levels below. Guess what? How much attention is being paid? County Fire Chief told me he gets to go to the board once a year and do a 30-minute presentation. And thank you for coming, and goodbye. That's all he got. So I'm like, that's not oversight. No one's paying any attention. So our hope is we do a fire district, independent fire district. It's not a panacea, guys. It's not gonna fix stuff, but at least we will have representatives that we elect who are now negotiating with CAL FIRE to get us better services. It's not just fire, by the way, emergency response. We forget, something happens to you, the first people who show up is fire. Okay, and I've asked this a bunch of times, and I was told, well, we can't change it. But why do we need CAL FIRE to be our emergency response and send out the ambulances right away? Why don't we do another EMS provider and do it? Well, we got to go to the board. And maybe in, 2014, we'll change something. I'm sorry, 2024, 3014, we'll change something. It's like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. So having its own fire district hopefully has people who are committed to it, who are looking at it, and everything. And then my hope also is that we maybe merge with some others, because 12 is ridiculous. It's such a small county. So if we can merge, we get more heft. It's a better contract for CAL FIRE. Let's make it work for them. Let's make it work for us. Let's make it work for our volunteers. So that's long, but that's what we need to do, because we all need county fire. I'm sorry, that's not an option as far as I'm concerned.
Great. That's some fantastic color. Thank you. All right. Well, that's all we've got on that. We can take questions later. I'll touch on a few more topics. Everyone's favorite, road funding. Yes. So first of all, I certainly agree that it can and should be more. I think a lot of you wrote letters back during our budget season in May of this past year. And ultimately, those letters were helpful in moving the needle. So of the new money that has come into the county from Measure K, that was $7 million. We actually allocated the majority of that to roads. So at first it was sort of 1 million directly, and then we were deciding what to do with the other 3 million. And we decided to lump that into roads as well. We want to make sure that we're well prepared to respond to disasters this winter. So basically that 4 million is sitting in a contingency fund to respond to winter storms and do any emergency repairs. And then if we make it through the winter relatively unscathed, we can start to talk about proactively doing projects, whether it's repairing culverts or other specific repairs. There are still a couple of high priority projects up here in the mountains. I'm happy to say that we completed the Schultes Road repair and making sure that that entire neighborhood, given the challenges on Redwood Lodge Road, still has safe access in and out. We were hoping to get Schultes repaired this fall. We were held up through permit delays from state and federal agencies. And then with a lot of these projects, we've been doing them time and materials, not doing elaborate designs. And that's allowed us to do things faster, but also means we have less bids on the project because we can't say, here's exactly what it is, bid for it. And so we estimated the Schultes repair, the Stetson repair would cost about $1 million. The bid came back at $2 million. So at this point, given it's so late in the season, we're already starting to see significant rains. We want to, first of all, make sure we get all the permits done and aren't proceeding illegally, and then put together the designs and put it back out to bid first thing in the spring to try to bring that back to more of the estimated range of $1 million, because every million counts here and we want to make the money go as far as possible. But Schultes, Stetson is at the top of the list. Out of 161 million active storm damage sites we still have countywide. And we estimate that all will cost about $84.8 million to repair. So it's not the worst place to be by any means. If you have a quick question now, I'm happy to take it. Gotcha.
It happened December 10th of 2022. March 10th. It'll be 3 years in March. One of my big problems is, we keep getting the rug pulled out from underneath us.
Yeah.
But I find it inexcusable that we still don't have permits over 2.5 years after the washout. I mean, this is one of those things, if this was my job, I would be fired. I'm sorry. I mean, to say at the last minute that we don't have permits, we should be, as soon as it washes out, you start the process. I mean, we know the process is going to take time. I mean, we got to get Fish and Wildlife, we've got to get all these permits. I just find that inexcusable. I mean, if this was my job, my customers would withhold payment. Right? We're not allowed to withhold payment because our payment is taxes. And part of our contract to pay taxes is we will have services. We will have roads. We will have fire. We will have police. We will have ambulance, right? Fire can't get through it. I have personally redirected the CAL FIRE truck around. I have personally redirected the sheriff who was responding to a death at the Willows around. Right now, it comes into question, why do our services not understand that the road isn't there? I mean, that's another question, but we pay our taxes to get services delivered. Roads are one of our major services because it facilitates the delivery of other services. Skyland washed out in 2017, gone. It took 6 to 9 months to rebuild it. It was at least 6 months. Yeah. Who's to say that happens again? And then all of us at the end of Stetson are trapped. So, I just don't see 3 years to repair this as a viable option. I mean, they just did the tree work. All the redwoods were chopped down to 10 feet tall because if they start excavating, the redwoods could, if they start hitting the roots, the redwoods could fall over. Okay, fine. But, I mean, I got a friend that lives in the Willows and he did contracting. I mean, me, Dan, and a backhoe, this is something I could bang out in, a month, with a good concrete guy. So we're tired of waiting and hearing about permits. I'm sorry. I think we need better answers, and we have a fair amount of us here. I mean, who all's here from Stetson for the washout? You came for the, we came for this just to discuss this topic.
Yeah. So, okay, a couple of things. First of all, I hear you loud and clear, sir, and I'm sorry about the fact that this project has been on, off, on, off, on, off. That, there has basically been a number of funding challenges that have led to that, but still, I agree that the communication and the delay is incredibly inconvenient, and I apologize.
Well, I mean, what was really surprising to me is I get about 10 days ago, I got an email from Steve Weiser that, unfortunately, blah, blah, blah. And then I get a follow-on email from Jamie in your office saying, you guys didn't even know about it.
We learned about the same time that a little bit before. I mean, everything, we were trying to get this done, basically this fall. And then, like I said, basically the two challenges that mentioned, the permits, but of course, the bigger issue is the money, right? It's 2 million for that repair at the quote. We'd like to keep it to 1 million. That's, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Redwood Lodge? Yeah,
Sure,
yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's, yeah, I agree with you on that, but
Right. Anyway, so sir, I'm happy to address that. I'm trying to answer this gentleman's question first. So I hear you. Why have we not done it? I mean, look at the magnitude of issue in our county. I mean, 357 sites repaired. That takes a little bit of work, and I'm sorry that we haven't prioritized Stetson. We absolutely do prioritize cases where people are cut off completely.
I mean,
We did it. We repaired Main Street in 24 hours.
County's crazy. I mean,
Of course,
it's been deferred for years.
I 100% agree. I'm happy to talk more about why that's the case. This graph says it all. We get way less property taxes in Santa Clara on the other side of the county line. This is per unincorporated county resident. We get $463 per county resident versus $10,831. Because we didn't fix all the other we didn't fix all the storm damage that happened in 2016-17. So we were still dealing with that backlog. And then we got all the over 100 storm damage sites from 2023, that winter, that we had to start work on. And so, I mean, so we've done all 357 sites since 2015. We still have 161 remaining. Now, of those, Stetson's at the top of our list.
Hundred feet away from this. The Willows is one of the last affordable places for elderly and people with low incomes to live. And they live there peacefully, but there's a lot of ambulances that have to go there. There's a lot of, and for them to get to those people, it takes sometimes an extra 30 minutes or more, depending if they're lost or having to go all the way around. So it's not even our own selfish needs we're talking about here. We're talking about the needs of a vulnerable community that are being endangered.
Totally. There was a comment about the mic. The mic is actually just transmitting to the online audience, it's not projecting here in the room. Sorry, but it is in fact working. I hear you, sir. I mean, again, and that's one more reason why we like to get it fixed as fast as possible. Now, of the $4 million we have set aside, I mean, we'd like to, with 161 sites remaining, I'd like to spend 1 million if possible, fixing the road. If anything should happen to trap you, well, that will absolutely, you know, I've seen that we can move heaven and earth to make sure that people are not cut off, and we will do that. That's basically the red line that we won't cross. We will not let communities be cut off.
On Long Ridge are stuck, people on Stetson, people on Skyland. There's hundreds of homes out there.
Yeah. Absolutely,
Redwood Lot.
absolutely, and that's, yeah.
Nobody has come to prove the size of the road either, which happened we've lived here since 1977.
Wow.
Yeah, you're right. It was before I was born. Yeah.
Well, your predecessor did some pretty shocking repair work on the sides too. That's, my name's Robert Williams. That's ready to go anytime too. It's sinking already as well. And when that goes, then the people below we live on Long Branch Road, it's a private road. They're gonna be stuck. They're not gonna be able to get out because it'll reduce it less than a lane. So Redwood Lodge Road is probably even worse than you think it is.
Mm.
You know, there's just a couple of us that live on that road. It's been there for 45 years. Everybody else is usually 5 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
You know, which is pretty much the way it is up here. People come in and leave, and then squeal and leave.
So I hear you again, and I agree with your comment that roads are the most fundamental infrastructure we have because it allows for the delivery of every other service. And I think that we are absolutely entering a time of needs versus wants. And I think we're going to continually have to look at the county budget and look at what we have to cut to make sure that we are delivering the most fundamental service that you pay for with your taxes, and ensure that you continue to get the benefit that you're paying for. So I think two things to that effect. I mean, first of all, as I said, we're getting 2 new county supervisors who live it every day as well. And I'm hoping that when we all look at the budget again next year, that there is impetus to make some of those hard decisions, and figure out what we can live without, and in order to put more money towards roads. The other thing is solving this fundamental issue, which is just that our county has been getting too little of our property taxes for too long, since before I was born. This is a problem that I inherited, that everyone said, there's no way you can fix it. Sorry, it's just the way it is. I refuse to accept that because we can't keep accepting that. It's clear that our road network is in a dire situation, that we can't keep paying for these extremely expensive emergency repairs. We've got to be putting in the routine maintenance work, filling potholes, clearing the sides, working on our culverts. And so the reason we're stuck in this formula of only receiving 13% of the property taxes that you pay come back to the county is because of Prop 13, which sort of froze. And I'm not saying we should get rid of Prop 13. I understand it's what makes living in California affordable, and more states are looking at these kinds of measures. I don't want to get rid of Prop 13 by any means, but what was left to the state government when Prop 13 passed was how to divide up the 1% of property taxes. And so this is basically the pie of where our property taxes go. This general fund is the county, and the average for counties is 20%, and we're at 13%. All I'm saying is we should at least get an average amount, because we actually do have an above average amount of roads in our community. And the reason that, anyone will tell you, well, all property taxes stay local. What are you going to do here? We actually fund schools with more of our property taxes than most other counties. Schools on average get about 50%. So that 7% that other counties enjoy, in our case, is going to schools. Well, we can't take that away, can we? Arguably, you can because the state will backfill that money. They have a local control funding formula that says this is what schools should make or should be receiving per student. If you're funding it with local money, great, we won't give you the money. So effectively, what's happening is because schools are getting more than the county's getting less, the state is funding our schools less, and we have a net lower amount of money coming in.
I think we're fine.
Sure,
I have a proposed solution for it.
sure. Go ahead.
This, okay. Yes, proposed solution. And I actually sent this to Jamie, I sent it to Steve. There is a thing called a temporary bridge. Okay, my research when I investigated this option was that the initial installation is, I think, $15,000, but then it's $10,000 a month after that, right? So I realize that's a cost, but it is a good solution to our problem. Then the county can water around and do what they want, and we have a 10-ton bridge in place, because what we're talking about here is wildfire ingress egress. So depending on where the fire starts, one guy shut off over here and this guy shut off over here. There is no evacuation. There's no way to get out. Okay. So, and I know this is going to sound like a personal attack, and I don't want you to be take it this way, but I do want to have you look around the room and look at the faces in this room. Okay. Which one of these faces does the county feel is an acceptable fatality? Because that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about convenience of getting to the storm back. We're talking about wildfire, and that is the issue, right? So we've danced around on this for almost 3 years. Every day that goes by, it's on my mind, but every day that goes by, the risk increases. We've been lucky enough so far, but you have to realize that when you're talking about the people in this room, they are your constituents. And I think that you owe them more. I think that when we're given, emails and for state assemblymen and this type of stuff, that's not what we do. That's what you do. You get people together and motivate them to solve this problem. So my proposal for a temporary bridge, I think, has validity. No one's acted on it. Steve hasn't acted on it. You haven't acted on it, right? This would solve our problem. So please take that under consideration.
I'm happy to, and happy to look at that with Public Works tomorrow.
In our community, we're so strong and we supplement the county so much. There's so often that we never call you, we never bother you. We cut down our own trees. We work together as a community to clear roads. We have our own backhoes. What we do to supplement the county and not bother you, you would be shocked at probably the millions of dollars that we have saved you just handling stuff. Just handling stuff. Yes. Yes. So, I mean, it's honestly, if we just said, screw it, we're just going to call the county every time a tree falls. We're just going to call the county every time. It would be well past $2 million. I can promise you this.
Yeah.
Fixing holes ourselves in the roads. No, seriously, we give a lot. We give a lot.
I hear you. Did you have a point you'd like to make on this topic?
Well, it's the same one.
I'm wondering why it takes so long for the permit process. Look at Mountain Charlie Road. People walk to their houses. They could get no fire, no propane, no nothing. And how long was it? I mean, did that get finished? I hope. And then the permitting process, when something drastic happens up here, why can't they just immediately do that? I mean, I'm not even, I don't even know why they have permits to do this. You just fix a road. That's what people do.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, if it's a life-threatening situation or that the road is actually the community is actually stranded, we can proceed without permits and basically fix the road. I mean, we did, that's what we did on Main Street in SoCal. We've done it in places like Redwood Road in Corralitos. I mean, I've seen it done, and certainly we will do that to make sure people have access to necessary services. As far as Mountain Charlie, the biggest thing that held that up was not the permits, it was the fact that the hillside was still moving late into the spring, and we couldn't conduct even that temporary repair until the ground was dry enough to ensure that whatever we put down wasn't going to slide down the hill. It was mentioned that I should be calling legislators. I am. I actually have done an extensive amount of work on this issue to try to just solve our overall funding situation here in this county. We passed as a board a resolution asking for a reform in the way that property taxes are allocated. Monterey County recently joined us in that. I'm talking to Senator Laird actually on Thursday about this very topic. Happy to mention Stetson Road. And continue to meet with legislators, not only from our own county, but also other counties that face this issue like Yolo, Orange, San Bernardino, Sacramento County. Obviously, as I mentioned, because of the way the funding works, it does have big impacts on school districts. And so I'm also working with school board members to make sure we find a way forward that will benefit both schools and local governments. One last piece of good news, and then I'm happy to take any other questions you might have. So the sheriff's substation out here on Summit Road is moving forward. The plans are currently under review by the Deputy Sheriff's Association and will be submitted shortly to the Santa Clara County Building Department. They're expecting, or their plans have permits expected to be received by May, and they expect to start construction later next year. This will provide, again, just a place where both the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office as well as Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office will come, park vehicles, take notes. We'll also be able to staff volunteers there. I'm happy to hold office hours there. And it should just be a good overall community asset to have this back. Here are a few renderings, not looking terribly different from the outside. But we do get a new window here on the front with some decals on it. And then should just be a nice community room on the inside with a room here to have private conversation with the sheriff if you need to. That's all I got for you as far as a presentation. Happy to continue talking about Stetson or talk about any other topics you good folks may want to discuss. And if you are online, I would just ask that you raise your hand and we will take questions in the order that you do raise your hand.
Yeah, a quick question. Is a local proposition impossible?
As far as the property tax issue, so that's basically what I heard from the legislative analyst's office at the state. They said, well, just go figure it out yourself, decide how you want to carve up your pie, come back to us, and you could get it passed by the legislature. It takes 2/3 vote, but maybe it's it's a local issue. Maybe we'll just pass it. The challenge there is if we start taking money away from schools to give to local government without
I'm talking about a separate proposition that would just come to the public and say, are you willing to pay more money per vote? Why do we do that?
Yeah, that is being discussed. So right now there's a fee on your property tax bill, CSA 9, is it D, which is for county roads, and that hasn't been changed in I can't remember exactly how many years, but decades. And so one option would be to increase that, and that could come to a vote as soon as next year. We added $4 million specifically for road work. Yes. Yeah.
On top of what's the number that you added it on?
I mean, our total contingencies for the county are about 10%.
Okay. I was just worried. I thought it was only $4 million.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Stetson's going to cost too.
Well, the idea is we get through the winter and then, yeah, we can spend that money on things like Stetson.
I see.
And that's why, I mean, it's not a huge budget, it's true. That's why that difference of $1 million between what we expected and what was bid is significant.
Seems low. That's a little worrisome. Thank you.
Sorry, I got a question from Sanjay, and then I'll bring you next, sir.
All right, couple of things. So the pictures you showed, if you want to go back to the sheriff's substation, yeah, that one. So just a comment that people may not know. Actually, the previous one might be better because they one more. Sorry, didn't get that. So the North Campus, as it's known, which is across the street, the Loma Prieta Community Foundation has now leased that entire area from the school district and is running it. We are looking to rent it and make it more available to the community as a whole. These two buildings, the back room is right now called the Temporary Community Center. That will become like more of the community room, get it upgraded. Once all this work is done, hopefully summerish. And that front room those are the pictures that Manu you had. The front room, yeah, that becomes more of like an office space, and we'll put in couches and stuff that people could use and things. Our goal is also that back room, we're already talking to PG&E to make it a emergency shelter when electricity goes out, and then they'll bring in and put in water. They'll have a generator there to come charge your phones, all that kind of good stuff. And then on really hot days, hopefully it'll have air conditioning, so people can come in and at least hang out for a little bit and cool down and stuff. So there are big plans for that entire space. It does take time. It does take money. We're all volunteers. The community foundation is 100% made up of volunteers. But there are plans for that, and hopefully starting next year, you'll start to see more going on there. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing, and this is just for you guys, on your road, I've had multiple conversations over the years with people, and I'm not trying to say anything like you're not special, we're all special, but this has happened in multiple roads. Where the road breaks. Yeah, you guys know that, right? Yeah, and Mountain Charlie had the same thing, and I talked to a bunch of folks on Mount Charlie of, all the different things. Here's what I would tell you that as people have talked to me. I have spent many years now working with the county. Okay, I actually go and get on commissions. I go spend time down there and stuff. Here's the big one. You will go a lot further by playing nice with them. So yes. So here's the thing. Well, okay, fine. In that case, you know what? Here's my beauty of it. Trying to help you doesn't mean like you want to hear it. So I'll shut up now. Thank you. I'm just a freaking public.
I don't think that he's not very nice with the county. I mean, we've been, we've been patient, we've been civil, we've been supportive, we've been,
Yeah.
what is playing nice? But I think that when you get to the point of saying we're still waiting on permits, and it's closing in on 3 years from the incident. When you have the incident, you start working on the permits. I mean, you're going to need the permits. So, I mean, that's my point. I mean,
Yeah.
you're
I-
right about it.
Hey, well, I'm gonna take this question up here. Look, I hear you guys loud and clear in whatever voice that you use. And again, I'm sorry we didn't start working on the permits earlier. It's just a factor of volume more than anything. Again, you guys are absolutely a priority project. And at this point, it's largely trying to make sure that we anything is possible with an unlimited amount of money. We have a very limited amount of money here. That doesn't mean we don't want to solve your problem.
Well, I reached out to you, you pushed out to, don't certainly to Jamie, or you pushed to Steve, I forget, but that's where this email chain came.
Mhm.
And, it's been started as my email chain, and I don't think that we've been anything except polite and constructive Except for this last one, when we were just like, one of the people on the train said, felt like Lucy in the football and in Peanuts, every time, you go to kick it, Lucy takes it away.
Mhm.
That's the worst we've been as far as not being contributed, but we're frustrated. I mean, every time we think we're at the finish line, the football gets moved again.
I hear you loud and clear. That's super frustrating. Sir, I got a question here. I did try to move the mic around so that. Yeah.
She came over.
So you keep pushing it back. I mean, I don't understand why did you say it was gonna
So-
start in 2023 and then a year later it hasn't started?
The problem, I think you're part of the initial set of projects that we were trying to fix, 2023 after that storm damage. Basically, we ran out of money there. We spent $90 million fixing county roads.
And you ran out of money now.
Well, we had to
Save some money for us.
So a lot of the roads were paid for with one-time federal money. The question was, how could roads have been allowed to deteriorate so much? The problem is that 1978, when Prop 13 passed, we got stuck in this formula that, first of all, the amount of property taxes overall was basically cut in half, not less. And then we got locked into this formula of receiving a very low percentage of that.
How do you turn that formula around?
That's what I have explained. I'm trying desperately to do.
Okay.
Well, it seems like every time you guys have a problem, every time you have a problem, you mine the property owners. More taxes. Let's get it from the property owners. Let's don't get it from anybody else. The only place you have to go is to us. And I mean, we work really hard to get what we got.
I hear you loud and clear. And I think that actually this last election was a demonstration of the fact that people are already feeling pretty tapped out. We saw a lot of the school bonds fail, for example. We saw Measure R fail in the central fire bond because of exactly what you're saying. And again, I hear you. And that's why I'm trying to look for sources of funds outside of our immediate community. It's harder because it takes in this case, it's going to require state constitutional amendment. I don't think that should deter us. We can do hard things. But,
How about a resident tax, not a property tax, a resident tax? You have lots of residents. You don't have many property owners. You're making more
yeah,
residents.
typically we would get at that with a sales tax, for
You're making
example,
more
which
residents.
we did just pass an additional sales tax. And as I said, we have allocated the majority of that to county roads. I know I've had a question over here for a long time. So sir, go ahead.
Skyland Road, they patch it and stuff like that.
I think hold on, your mic is on.
Okay. The Skyland Road is, when they do the patching and stuff like that, they don't put any oil in it. They just throw a little asphalt and it lasts about 2 weeks and then it's gone.
Mhm.
They got, they got to do a better job of repair, whatever. I mean, these are little holes. But yeah, and then the rocks come out and hit your car and everything.
Mhm.
Have them do a better job. That's all I'm saying.
Bargain hunting for people to do these jobs. Somebody has to oversee the job they're doing. We also had a huge incident where these tree trimmers came through, trimmed the trees, and then they threw all the branches all over the sides of the road to create a bigger fire hazard. And you had no idea that even happened. And so that's something you may want to put in because you can't pay people to do work like that. Because it's not helping anybody. It's unfair to you because you're trying to do your job.
And then you're going to get the negative results from the citizens when you're trying to do your best. And I understand that.
Yeah, I hear you. Greater oversight and making sure that when we do regular maintenance, that we do a more thorough job. Yeah. I'm gonna go to some online questions now. Jamie, do we have anyone in the online audience with their hand raised?
Yes, I'm going to unmute a participant now.
Hi there. Boyana?
Yes, hi, thank you. I apologize, I was a little bit late for the meeting, and perhaps you covered this, but has the county now received all the FEMA funds or other federal money owed for the heavy storms in the from 2017 to 2023? I heard that there were some delays, and I'd sure like to see that be completed before end of this year.
I would too. So we are still owed about $100 million from FEMA. So we have basically received all the money from the 2016-17 storms. We have not, and we received a large chunk from COVID recently, and that's what allowed us to do some of these additional projects. But we still are owed a total of $100 million between the CZU fires and in particular 23 winter storms. So we are we've changed our strategies and are working with people who know the system better. But of course, the big challenge is that FEMA has continuously been overdrawn. They went into immediate needs funding, which basically means we're not funding any of these permanent repairs. Only call us if you are literally stuck on a rooftop and need a helicopter delivered, kind of a thing. And hopefully Congress will appropriate more money for FEMA in this next budget year. But yeah, that's part of the challenge.
Anything we can do to help press that matter and decision?
We're pressing as hard as we can, and certainly our Congressman Jimmy Panetta has gotten the message loud and clear, and is working on the issue. And I don't think that this is a partisan issue. We've certainly seen red and blue states alike suffer from natural disasters recently. So hopefully they get the message in Washington and improve funding for FEMA next year.
Okay, thanks for keeping the fight going.
For sure. Thank you, Boyana. All right, I had a question over here.
I was wondering if you could,
Go ahead.
clarify how the road repairs are prioritized. So your slide showed 357 projects that were completed, and that's wonderful, but why were those projects given priority over the 161? And for example, just hearing about the Stetson Road situation where there's an at-risk population at the end of the road, seemed to me they would be at the top of the list of the 500 or so projects. So what are the criteria and who decides?
I mean, we look at, first of all, access. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? Can people actually get to their homes? How big of a delay is something causing? I mean, I can, if only half the road's washed out, it's not going to be prioritized as much as if the whole road is washed out. And then of course, we will look at just overall volume that the road receives. If, 450 people are trapped versus 200, we'd have to prioritize where there's more people, where it's going to impact. For example, that's why we did prioritize repairs to Bear Creek Road up here. It was used by 15,000 people a day. And those are the two biggest criteria. And mostly these decisions and the rankings happen at the level of the Department of Public Works. That's a great question. I don't know what the answer is off the top of my head, but I'm happy to get your contact information and reply, or to anyone who puts their name on the list. So it's a federal highway, and generally they are better than FEMA. as far as getting us money within a 1 to 2 year time span as opposed to 10. And so I believe it is on our short list of projects for that reason. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. We're trying to get. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can get you more details, but absolutely, it's not, we haven't forgotten about it. I mean, actually, that reminds me, one other challenge with Stetson is if we pursue the emergency repair at 2x what we thought it was gonna cost, 2 million instead of 1 million, we're probably not gonna get reimbursed from the project could become ineligible essentially for repayment. Whereas if we demonstrate that we put it out to bid, et cetera, it's more likely to get reimbursed. I know that doesn't make you feel any better, but I know.
I have
Yeah.
a question that's not about roads, so please bear with me, okay? One of my concerns and talking with a lot of my friends is this fire insurance. And I don't want to take away from roads, trust me, okay? But I am concerned, and I'm getting more concerned about fire insurance. We weren't canceled this year, but there's always the next round. Do you see it getting resolved at a state level? Is there, because this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And do you see it getting better anytime soon? Or what do you think is the best option to fix this problem? And I mean, and I'm not putting you on the spot on that one because that's more of a,
Yeah.
like, I don't, you're gonna take a lot of time to figure this out, but I just don't understand. I mean, I do understand how it got so bad, but it just went to nothing, and it's concerning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing losing the house, but it's just the house. But it would be nice to know that if I did lose it, I would get some money to start again.
Yeah.
And not have to fight the system.
Yeah.
Well, it's affecting real estate, it's affecting the value of our homes.
For
The
sure.
Neighbors have to sell their beautiful homes in a year because none of the buyers can get
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. Fire insurance is an issue that's impacting our whole county. I mean, my parents also lost their fire insurance recently and are on the FAIR plan. I mean, even down in town, we've seen our insurance rates double. And I live in a condo, and we still, even there, we've seen our insurance rates double. We're having some tough conversations about our HOA dues for the same reason. So I think a couple of things need to happen, right? I mean, the argument the insurance companies are making are, well, the risk is now, it costs us more to insure you, or if there is a disaster, we lose. And so we need to see our rates go up. And obviously they're doing that as fast as they can. And the insurance commissioner is improving their ask for rate increases as fast as possible, because arguably the laws we have restricting insurance rates from going up have kept our rates lower than, certainly that the market wants them to be. And now they need to catch up. I mean, right now we have two extremes, right? We had what we were paying in rates, which was down here, and you've got the FAIR plan, which is way up here. And so we're probably going to have to find some place in the middle. And right, they keep allowing rate increases, which will get us up. And then hopefully the other thing is that actually all this fuel mitigation work actually, I mean, the insurance commissioner said that is absolutely a hallmark of his plan. And that certainly when you're trying to move from the FAIR plan back to the open market, that will be considered as sort of like, qualifying, putting you at the front of the line to get out of the FAIR plan and be considered for a market rate plan. So, I mean, to that extent, I do think things like Measure Q, Prop 4, the fuel break on SoCal San Jose Road, which we expect to start next year, all do start to add up to some real risk reduction for our community that gets reflected in our insurance rates. But I know it's crazy.
Do you think, because all the insurance companies pretty much pull their money together in stock market and all that, now with what's happening in Florida? I mean,
What's happening in Florida, is it going to get tighter? Because they're all going to the same water trough essentially, and the first goal of an insurance company is to make money and then pay out. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, it is absolutely, I mean, and work directly in insurance, but one of the most interesting things I saw was from, I can't remember his name, but the guy that basically predicted the 2008 crash, right, of mortgage-backed securities, said that actually when interest rates come down, we might actually see an oversupply as people rush to sell because they've been they can't move with the high interest rates. They can't afford a new mortgage. And so when they start to look at moving out of some of these disaster-prone areas, there might actually be an oversupply, which ultimately leads it to a drop in prices, and trillions of dollars of real estate could be wiped off the map. Not great news, but hopefully there's other things buoying our property values here, being in California in proximity to Silicon Valley. We shall see. And in the meantime, clear 5 feet around your home and keep shopping for insurance. We'll certainly continue to advocate for projects countywide that will reduce our community risk profile, and hopefully as we do the tough work on things like reorganizing our fire department or county fire, that also gets factored in and reduces our ISO score. Yeah.
This is more informational than anything. Covered California is doing their 2025 opening. Also, this impacts anybody who's on Medi-Cal as well. It turns out that Covered California's tools do not recognize that the 95033 zip code is actually split between Santa Clara County and Santa Cruz County. So every single person who is in 95033 Santa Cruz County is being mapped into Santa Clara County. This results in a financial penalty of significant proportions because Santa Clara County does not approve the only 2 plans available to Santa Cruz County people, primarily Blue Shield and what is the other one? Yes. So they charge immediately off the bat a $500 per month penalty. Anyone who's in Santa Cruz County who sees this kind of quote will probably be completely disincented from even enrolling. Otherwise, they pay it. If you go to a supervisor and say, I don't understand this fee, they will then track down that you are in Santa Cruz County, not Santa Clara County, but they cannot necessarily correct it. It is not a person problem. It is a tool problem because the tool doesn't recognize this. So anyone who is right now in Santa Cruz County 95033, your medical coverage and Medi-Cal is in serious peril.
Has anyone else experienced this issue firsthand? Just out of curiosity, that does sound like
We've verified it
serious
already with
problem,
2
and-
different cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use the same address because I was filing this in particular, and the tool technology. I mean, it's right. They're updating their application, and it used to be you'd enter in your address, and fill in the county information. But here it's very convenient. It autofills it for you. You start typing in your number and it fills out the information, except it automatically grabs the wrong county. And I'm sure many of us have had experiences of flipped counties and county confusion in other courts. This took us by surprise, though, because this was a new application. We hadn't had this problem before because we filed correctly, years ago. Everything was fine. It was all Santa Cruz. Had to refile due to real life circumstances. And all of a sudden it's all Santa Clara, and I'm having to call the Covered California rep, and I'm being told, okay, but you're in Santa Clara, right? You're really in Santa Clara, right? I've said, I've Googled Santa Cruz zip codes here, 95033. You can do it too. I can show you the deed, although that's kind of excessive. Took me about 10 minutes before I got some buy-in. But
in the meantime, if you don't have this kind of ability to fight it, if you don't have an advocate working for you, you might just look at this number and either pay the bill
Mhm.
or say, give up and say, I can't do it,
Yeah.
or end up in the wrong county for Medi-Cal or other areas. So, I
I'm
mean,
happy to be an advocate for you, work with our health
Yeah.
department, work with.
it's
any
really
wanted
important that
state
this be
agencies.
corrected for all constituents.
Absolutely.
Because, maybe I can fix it, but other people may be paying huge amounts of money or else going.
Yeah. I will absolutely stay in communication with you and make sure we address this issue as quickly as possible. And hopefully there's a way around the app. Or we'll cut one. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you again for coming out tonight. It's great to see all your faces. Appreciate you being here.